What was your "I'm dating/married to a effing idiot" moment? On a camping trip. She was worried about parking the car on the grass, because she thought the grass was going to grow, puncturing and flattening the tires. My husband thought people whistled when they set off fireworks. He didn't realize the fireworks themselves whistles. Though, that was one of his more harmless stupidities. My boyfriend refused to eat basil I had bought from the grocery store, because it was a full plant. I was keeping it outside, and he insisted that he would not eat dirty food. I asked where he thought farmers kept produce, and he said that they have special areas for food to grow that was sterilized, but my plant was not food grade. I just looked at him with a dumbfounded look. I didn't know how to respond. Girl I dated in college broke my laptop because she kept trying to get a USB drive in. Instead of, flipping it, she just pushed harder and harder until it broke my port and motherboard. He thought potatoes never go bad because his mom always kept a bag in the pantry. I asked him if they ate a lot of potatoes, and he said, yes. They have a large family with 6 kids, and it still didn't click. My now ex-husband legitimately thought that having a hysterectomy meant that your vagina was removed. I learned this when he asked me how women who had a hysterectomy were able to pee. Further discussion led to the realization that he thought that a hysterectomy resulted in a nice smooth Barbie-like bump down there. A girl I was trying to date told me that Spain is part of Latin America, and when I informed her that it is in Europe, she doubled down by saying she was a Latin American studies student, and that I was wrong. Dude, a few years ago, I was talking to my grandma, and she swore to me that we were from South America. I said, no grandma, you and I are Portuguese, that is in Europe. She got mad at me and left the conversation because she has thought her entire life that Portugal is in South America. She has always lived in California, and that's where I grew up too. She always talks about her Portuguese heritage too, having no effing clue where it is located. She was 85-ish at the time, so she had no business not knowing. Edit, if it's not clear, I'm talking about ancestry. Found out she was eating half-cooked pre-made pot pies, cause she broiled every meal in the oven instead of baking it. She told me she hated that her oven burnt the top of each one and left the bottom doughy. She would eat the uncooked dough regardless. My partner was grunting and groaning at the bin. He said, we need new bin bags, these ones you've bought don't bloody fit. Went over to see what was going on, and he had a roll of small black dog poo bags in his hand, with one unfurled, trying to work out why it wouldn't fit in the bin. There were bin bags, he just picked up the wrong roll, and instead of realizing, tried to get a dog poo bag in a bin 50 times bigger. More cute than anything, but I'm half French, and my current English girlfriend said to 2 months into dating, I love you, but why the F do you keep calling me bunny when we go to sleep? It's really weird. Bonne nuit, I was saying good night in French. Anyways, I call her bunny all the time now, just to annoy her. There was this girl that kept faxing the same document over and over. Eventually, the recipient called to beg her to stop. But it keeps failing, she said. The document keeps coming back out. My husband went in Dollar General for toilet paper. We had maybe $50 to last the week. This man came back with $40 of mango juice because it was on sale, and no toilet paper. I drank the juice, but I was awfully salty about it. I dated a guy in college who visited me in my rural hometown and asked what the animals in the neighbor's field were. I said, cows. In a, you must be shitting me, level of disbelief. He proceeded to tell me they can't be cows because cows are black and white and these animals were all brown. I had to pull up Google to prove to him that brown cows existed. I could maybe understand if he'd been from a city, but he told me he was from a rural suburb, not a city, so I guess he was just an idiot. We served in the US Peace Corps together in Uganda. One day, it was really sunny out, like, we lived within 50 miles of the equator, sunny. She says, the moon is going to be really bright tonight. I asked what she meant, and she said, since it's so sunny, the moon is absorbing all the light, and will illuminate brighter when it's dark. We argued about this, and ended up talking to her mother on the phone. She confirmed her daughter's hypothesis. We were getting ready to move, and were going through each room, discussing whether to take or get rid of the furniture. In the bedroom, I remarked that I would like to get new bedside lamps. The ones we had were from his bachelor apartment over a decade ago. He said, "I can see why you'd like new lamps, but it's kind of amazing that the light bulbs have lasted 10 years. Dear gentle reader, the light bulbs had not lasted that long. He just was never the one to change them." While we were moving, my ex-wife asked me who we needed to contact to change our email address. Edit, thank for the responses and upvotes. Promise this isn't a bad attempt at a joke. This really happened when we moved to a new house in the same region of our state. We both had been using Hotmail at the time, which made this funnier. To me at least. My wife went to the store to get cilantro for our tacos. She came home with parsley. Easy mistake, they look similar if you don't look closely enough. I told her she bought parsley. She was convinced it was cilantro. I had her taste it. I showed her the tag on the bundle that said parsley. She reluctantly went back to the store to get cilantro. She came home with another bundle of parsley. I love this woman, but this moment, I was questioning everything about her problem-solving skills. The good news is, she has never brought home parsley again. One day, I was making butter chicken curry, which my ex loved, and in the middle of cooking realized I was out of yogurt. Sent him to the store to get some. He came back with blueberry flavored. My husband was feeling unwell and began Googling his symptoms. After a while of silence, he suddenly turns to me in a panic and says, "I think I have preeclampsia." Okay. I'll be honest, when WebMD first was a thing, I, F/35, immediately jumped on it and put in any and all my symptoms. Well, as we all know, they always give you the worst case scenario. And it did. It said I might have testicular cancer. I called my parents, sobbing. They said I was a waste of private school education, and hung up on me. Now, look, in my only defense, my older brother had gynecomastia, so, in my head, I figured, if my brother was born with tits, then maybe it was possible I was born with balls stuck somewhere inside me. I don't know. It seemed logical to me at the time. My wife, a medical professional, once asked me why men even have belly buttons. I looked at her with my mouth wide open and said nothing for what felt like 30 seconds. I then saw the look of realization in her eyes as she turned and walked away in quiet shame. Ex-wife complained Apple Pay wouldn't work, or link, or whatever. I suggested she contact Apple support or go down to the Apple store. Kept refusing to go to the store, saying she'd call customer support and go from there. One day while at work, she texts me asking where to get iTunes gift cards. Already a red flag. Why do you need those? I ask. She stated to me that Apple support is requesting the codes so they can verify funds. I told her it's a bad idea, it's a scam, and to just go to the Apple store. An argument broke out, and nothing was discussed further. I get home that night and notice 8 $100 iTunes gift card holders in the kitchen. I ask her if she sent the codes to anyone, in which another argument broke out. She said she posted in an Apple support thread, and an anonymous user replied to her, telling her to call this number, obviously unaffiliated with Apple. Some say her Apple Pay still doesn't connect to this day. Having a discussion with my wife about not using certain Christmas tree decorations because they were glass, and we had small kids. Her, they're not glass. Me, they are though. Her, no they're not. See? Proceeds to drop one straight onto the hardwood floor. Smash. Me. Her. Me, with deadest straight face I have ever managed in my life, I'll get the broom. And that is why we are still married. Her, no they're not. See? Proceeds to drop one straight onto the hardwood floor. Smash. That was my brother on Christmas in 1987. He picked a glass reindeer off the tree, and my mother told him to be careful, as it was glass. So, he dropped it on the carpet. Didn't break. He dropped it onto the carpet again. Still didn't break. So, he wandered into the kitchen, where my mother was getting coffee, and proudly announced that the reindeer was not glass, it was plastic, and to watch this. The reindeer shattered into hundreds of little pieces the moment it struck the tile floor. Of course, my brother had an excuse. He was 7. We had a clogged French drain outside. My husband thought a plunger would fix it. He dropped the handle in the drain, trying to plunge it. If that wasn't bad enough, he tried to use a wrench to get the handle out of the hole, and proceeded to drop the wrench in the hole as well. He then called a plumber and told him, "We need help getting a plunger handle and wrench out of the drain." He's a PhD in English literature. Needless to say, I am now the handyman. When he spent an hour arguing, cows are from England, and bulls are from Spain. Or when he told me he is British, because he had mixed Egyptian and Irish heritage, and I was English, because I don't. Oh no, wait. When the dentist handed him that vacuum thing to spit into, and he thought it was an oxygen mask, and got it stuck to his face. Ha! Memories. My husband watched me cooking one day. We had only been dating for a month or two, and as I was talking, the pan that I was heating up was wobbly, so I proceeded to stick a spatula under it to keep it steady, a plastic one, right on a burner. It melted, naturally. His first thought was, am I dating a moron? I don't even blame him for that thought. The dude married me anyway, but he does all the cooking. My high school boyfriend thought women got cramps from holding their menstrual flow, like you'd get cramps from holding urine. And women just go to the bathroom and force it out, like poop. Pads and tampons? They're just in case you can't hold it. This one is a bit obscure, but when you go to a hotel to check in, you tell them your full name, or at least your last name, so they can look you up. The guy I was dating at the time, and I had booked a hotel somewhere, and we got there, they asked his name, he only gave them his first name, which is generic. What's your full name? Again gives them just his first name. Sir, we need your full name to look you up. Yeah, but the reservation is under my name, first name here. I had to intervene and tell him they needed his last name, because there could be many guests by his first name. I was so shocked, this was not common sense to him. Girl I was dating was making nachos and shredding cheese. She cuts herself, and blood gets on the cheese and the shredder. As she gets a band-aid, I pick up the cheese, and as I am throwing it away, she freaks out, as now I may have AIDS. Like what? She is hard freaking out that I just got exposed to AIDS, and I needed to get medical attention. After talking, it turns out, she thought AIDS was everywhere. Like any blood outside the body, could just magically get it. Her stupidity was a relief that night. My boyfriend at the time is American. I am Italian. The first time he met my father, he tried to impress him by speaking in my native language. Long story short, someone in his life failed him immensely, because he genuinely was unaware Italy had a language of its own, and assumed we spoke French. My dad was very confused. I laughed until I almost passed out. He was so embarrassed. In that moment, I knew I would love him forever. We get married this year, and he is determined to say his vows in Italian, LOL. Edit. Thank you guys so much for the hilarious responses and suggestions. My fiancé and I are dying reading the comments. He wants me to add that him and I began dating when we were both 14. We are now 20, almost 21. He was 14 when this happened, LOL. Lord, I've got a list. He has set himself on fire multiple times, sometimes on purpose. He once decided he wouldn't shut off the power while working on a dryer, because that would mean he'd have to change a bunch of other batteries. He got shocked, unsurprisingly. This only served to fuel his determination. He got electrocuted, zapped 13 times, but he did finish the job alive, in the end. We have multiple nicks in the ceiling, due to sword-related shenanigans. He volunteered to be on the receiving end of my taser, just to know what it felt like. As a child, he asked his older brother to kick him in the balls, again just to know what it felt like. He volunteered to have his entire nether region, front and back, waxed. For fancies. He once made me wake up in the middle of the night, in a panic, thinking there was a fire, because he had manscaped and decided to clean up the hair by setting it on fire. He managed to both dislocate a knee and get pink eye within one drunken hour, during which he was playing with whiskey and homemade torches. I could go on. My ex, upset that our bedroom did not stay dark into the morning, once pounded a 4-inch bolt from our daughter's crib into the wall, to hang a shitty blanket up over the window. In case it's not obvious, bolts have flat ends, and are not made for hanging items on walls. The hole it created in the wall was more of a crater. And the disgusting blanket he purchased for the venture was ruined as well. One day my then fiancé was very angry with me without warning, and started harassing me over, "What are you going to do? How are you going to pay for our wedding? How?" Basically accusing me of being broke, or having no financial plan. After a whole day of me wondering what the heck is going on, she finally went through the numbers. According to this wedding magazine, she borrowed from her friends. The average cost of a 200-guest wedding in Tokyo was $80,000 or so. And I did not have that kind of money. Like, at all. And then I had to literally sit her down and use pen and paper to prove how much our wedding is costing, since I insisted it won't be as much. How much is the venue and the ceremony and the rentals? $2,500. How much is the meal going to cost per guest at the hotel restaurant? $50 to $70. And how much are the hotel rooms we're paying for? $150 per night. And how many people are attending the wedding? 13. All said and done, our whole wedding was going to be about $4,500 to $5,000. And we knew this. But after reading one magazine article about mega weddings in Tokyo, my fiancée convinced herself that ours had to cost that much, too. Spent nearly 2 days, stewing and angry with me, before even explaining this was the reason for her hostility. She was easily influenced like this by anything. Friends' comments, overhearing old ladies' conversations on the train, clickbait news online, etc. And no, I did not go through with the wedding. Took me a long time to admit that her stupidity wasn't a charm point, but weaponized incompetence by an abuser. My dear lovely husband did not know that Shirley Temple Black was Shirley Temple's name after she married. One night, he admitted that he thought Shirley Temple Black was the Black Shirley Temple. Like Hollywood had remade all of the movies with a black child actress for black audiences. Thank goodness he's pretty. My wife recently realized she is colorblind through her eye doctor. She is an artist, and yes, her art is very beautiful, but the way she chose her colors has always been a bit strange. I now realize why. Anyway, when she found out, she was shocked. Afterward, as soon as we got home, she showed me her color palette that she used to paint, showing me the way she's seen colors. I kept trying to explain to her that I don't see colors like she does, so I don't know what she sees through her eyes, but she couldn't understand what I was talking about. 2 days later, she randomly came up to me and said, "Yeah, that makes sense." After cheating on me the second time, I realized he cared very little about my feelings, or the relationship in general. I dealt with that, though, as we had a child, and I could put the hurt away for the kid. Finally left when I realized he had been neglecting our son while I was away at work. He was out of a job, and had been for months. Quote from child, that really made me decide to leave the ex. "Mommy, can I always go to work with you? Daddy just sleeps, and sometimes I get hungry, and can't reach the bread." We did talk about this, and he always denied it. I tested the hole the next day. Woke the ex up, told him I was leaving for work, and he needed to wake up to be with our son. I went to work at 2:30 p.m. almost every day. I took the kid to work with me. Didn't hear from the ex until 8 p.m. And that's only because I texted him and asked how our kid was. "He's fine. He is playing video games in the room." I informed him the child was with me. Good times. Happened last night, and I'm still pissed. Drove up to a roundabout, and were the first ones to arrive at the scene of a pretty rough car accident that just happened. It was between a cop car and a car with a couple of younger women, all airbags deployed. Girl's car was definitely totaled. We pulled up, and the cop was rolling out of the driver's seat, and I called 911 for an ambulance. The cop seemed okay, and went to check on the younger girls, who were screaming, and were definitely hurt and shocked. We heard sirens, and other cop cars showed immediately, so the best thing we figured to do was get out of the way and go about our night. The idiot part is this: we get in our truck, and I tell my boyfriend he has time to pull back into the now backed up roundabout. His response was, "Hold on, I'm making a Snapchat post," and I'm like, "What the F, we need to clear out of here before it gets too busy, and so we're not in the way of the cops. Is now really the time?" Then I see the post. It was a video of the accident, then the camera panning back to him, smiling, saying, "They're out here getting the police, too." Now to clarify, we weren't at the accident site for long, so, during the time I was checking on the cop, and the girl was screaming in pain from her car, and officer was trying to get her out, my boyfriend was recording that dumbass video. 1. I found that disgustingly insensitive, at the very least. 2. I called him a little bitch, for his first instinct, to be pulling out his phone and record. We drove home in silence that night, and I still don't know what to say, to address that dumbass childish behavior. I was dating this woman, who saw my copy, of God Is Not Great, on my bookshelf, and asked to borrow it, because she'd heard a lot about it, and wanted to read it. I said, okay, even though I had just bought it. We saw each other a few more times, hooking up and stuff. It was nice. One day, we're sitting there, and she starts telling me she's into Reiki, and she's serious. If you don't know what that is, in a nutshell, it's pseudoscience nonsense. I cringe upon hearing this. I asked if she got to reading the book, and if she liked it or not, and she says, "Oh, I skimmed it, and thought it was total trash, so I threw it out." Double effing idiot. You don't politely ask to borrow something, and then throw it out. I told her I think Reiki's bullshit, and that she owes me $25, before I left for good. My wife, when we were dating, was driving along the highway. We could see trees moving in the breeze. She says, "Boy, how windy do you think it is?" Rolled down the window, and stuck her hand out, to feel the breeze. In a moving car, at highway speed. I was driving, but looked over at her, as she did it. "Well, is it windy?" "Yes." LOL. My college girlfriend took me to her megachurch. Though I was a bit uncomfortable, I was open-minded. I have no problem with someone being religious, but when the pastor went, "When Satan comes to get you, you put your hand up, and tell him, 'Satan, you can't take me, because I tithe, and give offerings to the church.'" The crowd erupted in cheers, and I instantly lost respect for all 3,000 of them, including my girlfriend. On my 18th birthday, my high school boyfriend, truly the sweetest guy, was talking to my mom in the kitchen, when she realized she needed to take something out the oven. She realized she didn't have oven gloves, so she turned around to get them. My boyfriend, wanting to help, pulled the burning hot tray out of the oven with his bare hands. I loaned my ex $65 to go pay his phone bill. I was going that way anyway, so I told him I would pay it for him along the way. He gave me back the $65, and I paid it at the T-Mobile store. Payday came, and I asked him for the $65. He said he already paid me back. He got so mad, and said I was a forgetful idiot, and just kept asking, yes or no, did he give me the money back? And I said, yes, but I then paid the bill for you. His friends all agreed I'm an idiot, and he never paid me back. That is the moment I knew he was an idiot. I had a roommate that I covered the security deposit for. I moved out, and had to pester him, long distance, for the money back. Meanwhile, he got evicted, and naturally, the landlord kept the security deposit. He then insisted that he didn't owe me the money, because the landlord hadn't given it back to him. We were planning a trip, and I asked my partner to book the flights. Weeks later, I asked for the details, and they said, "Oh, I thought we could just buy tickets at the airport, on the day we leave." Apparently, they thought airports were like bus stops. We ended up paying so much for last-minute tickets. I half expected a butler on the plane to greet us with caviar and a mortgage application. Lesson learned: trust, but always verify. My ex bought a brand new Mac computer and a set of DVD-ROMs to do photos. There was a clear plastic cover, the shape of a DVD, but thinner. He decided to see if it would work as a DVD. When it wouldn't extract, he forced a regular DVD in beside it, and got them both stuck. Had to take it back to the Apple store, and get it fixed. This was the same man who tried to use my child's plastic thermos to hammer in a nail, and punctured the thermos.